So one of the biggest killers of the potential that a lot of video games can achieve is greed. Greed has killed a lot of franchises right before they even got out the door. And Anthem, I think, is one of those. Anthem is one of those franchises that I think suffered from greed, poor management, and a host of other things. Because if you look at the way Anthem launched, there was a pre-release marketing tactic or pre-release marketing campaign in order to push that game heavily. In fact, EA brought and employed its game changers, which were YouTubers, influencers, or whatever they were, that were flown out to play a little bit of the game and then just given that little snippet to come back and tell people about. And I think some of these game changers or some of these publishing tactics or publicity tactics, is if I would put it this way, were influential in making people purchase the game. Now, I'm not really pointing fingers at anybody. I guess it's a lesson for everybody to learn, especially here in the gaming community. And YouTubers are much more cautious, and they now know that if somebody's trying to fly them out, they are pretty much trying to use them as a point of influence. Not always all the time, but sometimes that's the case. We're adults, we can call it exactly what it is. But lately, we've heard that Anthem might be getting a reboot. And other than the reboot, that's just, the beginning phase of all of this. It might be a thing, it might not be a thing. But I think the most interesting aspect of all of this is a lot of players are seeming to indicate that they actually do like to see or would like to see Anthem actually get a reboot, which is quite interesting. And I started to wonder why. And lately, I've been looking at comments. I've been looking at the reactions from people on YouTube videos regarding this topic and on articles. The main article and the main source for, some of these whispers and rumors was a Kotaku article by Jason Schreier. And if you go on Kotaku's website and read that article, which I would encourage you to do, one of the best things that you can do for yourself is just look at the comment section, and you're going to see a mixture of comments. But what I think is actually going to be really surprising in terms of how people are responding to this article or to this so-called rumor is that people are actually saying, if Anthem actually comes back, I might be willing to give it a try. And so I think gamers largely wanted to see Anthem succeed because if you look at the people who purchased the game, they purchased the game with the cautious warning from a lot of other people saying, hey, you might want to wait up. This is an EA game. You don't know what you're going to get. And it pretty much blew up in their faces, and they would love to see for the game to come back to kind of see themselves redeemed in a sense. And then there are other people who played the beta or the demo or whatever you want to call it and enjoyed the way the game actually played, but initially they were able to kind of see some of the potential issues that may arise and held off on their money and made a smarter choice in not paying for the game. My take is this. I think Anthem is such a unique game, and if you think about the game and the way it's been set up, the game does have a unique gameplay mechanic to it. Now, its premise is nothing new, but it was supposed to compare with the game like Destiny, and all in all, it did not necessarily do that successfully because poor management. They kicked the game out of the door when the game was not ready. They were telling everybody that this was going to be an awesome game. They were doing gameplay streams of this game, talking about the mechanics, and they knew in their hearts of hearts that this game was not going to meet market standards, and they still released it. So thinking about all of that, I think if Anthem comes out with a new game, bringing about like a premise that will be acceptable in the looter shooter, community or the diaspora, however you want to put it, and also make sure that the loot actually does have relevance, because another thing that a lot of people saw was loot had a lot of irrelevance in terms of the way the game was designed. So they need to look at people who have done looter shooters and take notes from them. I think EA is not inexperienced in areas like this. They have made some really decent games, and BioWare itself has made some decent games, even if a lot of that is going to be shadows of the past. Because if you point out to it, a lot of people have left the company since Anthem's release and failure. But they have to make a compelling game, and then they have to leverage the gameplay mechanics that are there and also make the open world have some simple, and also let me just put it this way. They have to make the open world have meaning, not just a bunch of fauna and grass and mountains and all that stuff, but it needs to have meaning as well. Now, regarding the NPCs, I didn't even play long enough to be able to assess the NPCs. It was released around the time the Division 2 was released, so you can't really, put much stock in how I actually see the way the interactions do work with player versus AI. But I will say for sure, the flying mechanics, the exploration mechanics, I think they were in a decent place. The flying could have been better, but it is still a unique title in the sense that they were the ones that put themselves out there and took the risk to make a flying mechanical suit type of game, which makes sense. It was an Iron Man type of deal, but I feel like that's probably going to be slightly satisfied with the Avengers game that's coming out. I think Square Enix is really going to be bringing the heat when it comes to competing with some kind of an MMO style RPG game, and I think they're going to challenge Anthem. So if EA is going to be working on this, they need to know that players do want to see this project succeed, and they have to make sure that they bring their best foot forward. Because if not, they're just going to be a joke, and a lot of other gaming companies are going to come in, swipe the possible consumer base that they could have been able to retrieve or recover, and they'll be left out in the cold with nothing. But it's quite interesting to see how players are reacting to this news. I want to hear your reaction, because it's really funny that you would have thought that as many people, really criticized and castigated Anthem, and rightly so, you would have thought that nobody would want to touch this game with a 10-foot pole. But it seems like people want to do so. And then you also have to look at things like No Man's Sky. You have to look at the timeline from when No Man's Sky was released to be not what it was promised to be till when it was fixed. And look at Anthem's timeline. I think another thing that might also affect Anthem, even though players are optimistic about it, is that they may have waited too long. And so even though some people from the old community want to come back, they will have to be able to find a way to market the new Reboot or whatever it wants to be, or whatever it's going to be called, to a new community to be able to fill in that void. Or we can even throw out the speculation that Dragon Age 4 might be the reason they want to actually clean up this game, because players may not be willing to take on a new game from EA in that sense without them cleaning up the mess that they made in terms of Anthem. But I'll put the ball in your court. I want you to please comment and let me know what you think in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching this video. I appreciate you guys' time and audience, and I guess I'll see you in the next video. Peace.